A very good day to you. Welcome. My name is Tony Dovale, founder of Life Masters, author of Swift Success, and the developer of the revolutionary workplace high performance framework, system and process. And today I want to talk to you about leadership. I've just come from a presentation where they're talking about leadership development required in organizations. And they're talking about a 9-day workshop for 120,000 Rand. And it got me thinking, what is the real need? What is the real challenge? Some research I read said that 70% of leaders aren't. That means they aren't leaders. And so I'd like to share with you from our research some of the core issues that cause problems in leadership. And if you're going to do leadership development or fast tracking or masterclassing, you need to make sure that the kind of development you're doing is going to incorporate that. Because what I've discovered over 40 years of research and development is that everybody's trying to build these huge buildings. The problem is they don't have the right foundation. And we all know that you have to have a really good foundation if you're going to build high, tall and strong. The problem is people want to be, do and have, and they go and do the skill set, but they don't have the mindset to create a high performance, sustainable, long-term leadership, what I call limitless leadership. And a large part of the issue is because they don't have the foundation. And so as part of my process in doing the high performance workplace, which covers six core areas, I realized that we need to create a platform for people to have a foundation. And so that foundation consists for me of six areas according to our revolutionary workplace high performance system. And if you have a look, I'll put up a whole thing that you can see a bit more detail. But if you don't have the right foundation, you're not going to build a very strong building. And so for me, the core component number one is the right foundation. And then once you have the foundation, then you need the skills on how to build resilience. IQ gets you on the field. EQ, emotional intelligence, gets you to manage the people. But if you take a slap or a hit and you stay down, who cares what your IQ or your EQ is? We need to know that, I know from our work that self-confidence is one of the number one issues. You might have the knowledge, you might have the ability, but if you don't have the confidence to pull the trigger, to take action, to make that decision, nothing's really going to matter. I know from my work in personal development, self-awareness, self-management, self-mastery, we all have baggage of some kind that filters and influences and biases our decisions. Very few people have unhooked the baggage. And so we have a thing called PMR, Proactive Memory Rewrite. It's a potent tool that allows you to create a new storyline, because the story of your past controls the destiny of your future. We know as a leader also that you need to be able to take multiple perspectives, not just yours. You need to have a view from all sides of the process. And so we have a process called stalking. And so our stalking process gives you a structured step-by-step process to take multiple perspectives onto it, an issue or a challenge or a problem, and allows you to see from other viewpoints. Because as a leader, you have to consider the entire team and organization, not just your own viewpoint. We also know that as a leader, a high level of humbleness is valuable. A strong level of self-confidence is vital, but there needs to be a switch that changes you from taking you from knowing about or knowing how to doing leadership. And so our process, our gladiator activation process, is the process, it's the mental rewiring process to take you from thinking about to stepping up into that role of doing leadership. We also have work from other experts around the world, Professor Logan, on building tribes, the languaging of optimizing the people in your workplace. But let me tell you a bit about the main issues that I've found in leadership. And the first one is ego. Do you know who I am? So you're in a position of leadership, but you're not behaving like a leader. And very quickly your ego tends to turn off, we call it edging God out. We're edging goodness and greatness out. because people don't like being around that kind of person. And so disrespect comes in, lack of listening and engagement. But very often these egotistical people are unaware. And that's the second part of the process is, if I think anything, which is why coaching helps so much with leadership development and fast tracking, it's that awareness, that internal voice, that mindfulness ability, but that awareness of how we are being experienced, how we're impacting, how we're being interpreted. Because leaders are in the forefront of impacting and influencing. But if you're unaware of how that message is being received, you might as well be a robot just delivering and speaking. I think a core part of that process is once we're that egotistical and unaware, we stop navigating for the team, for the we, for the us, and it becomes me. And that's when the whole leadership thing crashes. A large part of what I've seen and what I've termed the word greedership is we hear the stories of leaders earning millions a month. And I'm thinking, take that leader out of that role, position and function, company's going to run. There's nothing vital about what they're doing every day. But they get this, do you know who I am? They think money makes them. But it's not the money that's going to make them viable, valuable leaders. And so when the greedership component comes, and we see it in the newspapers and the magazines, integrity seems to be pushed to the side. And if everything, one thing I've come to understand, you might think you've hidden stuff as a leader, but you have a PA who knows. And if the PA knows, other people know. And eventually it will come out. And I think a large part of our problem in Africa is we don't have leaders with integrity and moral fabric and good character and ethics. We have too many greeders, or what I call bleeders, people that are hurting people. And I've seen people throwing, screaming, shouting, where it's a fear-based workplace. And that's not what leadership is really about. When you're into that position of being a greeter, you tend to treat your staff as a slave. And research shows the higher up the ladder you go, the more the business numbers matter and the less the human element matters. So we know that neurons that fire together wire together, and the things that you think about, talk about, react about, decide about the most become dominant in your thought process. And typically leaders are numerically orientated. Are we making a profit? Are we meeting our targets for the shareholders? And not hugely worrying about the stakeholders. Shh. Once that happens, the leaders also then start to play politics, because now they've got to defend and protect their domain. And so staff become slaves. It becomes their dominion. They become untouchable almost. And then there's the disconnect in the workplace. Very few leaders are then brave enough and conscious enough to ask for somebody that they trust to give them feedback, to give them an honest mirror, to say, here's how we see it, here's how we experience you, here's the impact and the downstream consequences of this behavior. And so they're running like crazy on their own badge. Look at me, whoopee, whoopee, look at me, look how great the company may be doing. But they're very unaware, or maybe even don't care about the cost and consequence lower down in the ladder. I think a large part of the challenge I see with leaders is they've got a formula that's worked for them, but the world is changing so fast with artificial intelligence and technology from the perspective of IT technology, but it's also changing from human performance technology. And so we find the dinosaur leaders trying to lead the millennials and the younger generation. They come with a specific mindset, they fixed on that mindset because it's safe, secure and certain, they think, but the real truth is in the longer term, that's not a sustainable model. And that kind of mindset, attitude and behavior then reduces and quashes innovation, creativity, execution, engagement, participation and commitment from the rest of the team. I think a large part of the frustration of organizations as well, and we had it recently with a large bank, is there's no clear vision, there's no clear priorities and focus. Everything's important, everything is mission critical. And we even had one of the leaders, and for me the astounding thing is this team protects the entire bank organization from losing their license across the whole of Africa. So they're a mission critical function. But the staff think we're trying to, their picture of what's happening is we're fitting into the strategy of the organization. And day by day, I've got to do these 1, 2, 3 things. But there was no meaning, there was no fuel, there was no drive, no realization that they're in fact protecting probably 20 or 30 or 50 million families by making sure that their organization is legal and compliant and fits into the regulations of each of the different governments that are around the world. I think a large part of the challenge also is communication, and that's what this leadership problem was, is there wasn't clear communication of here's our vision, here's our mission, here's our values, here's what the actions go with those values. Here's where our priority is right now. Here's my priority, here's a priority I think you need to be helping me with. Because of the lack of clear communication, ongoing communication, people, in the absence of information, the brain assumes the worst. And so this whole team had spiraled down into complete disarray and complete dysfunction. And as the boss said, we know that there's trouble everywhere, but we don't know where to start. We're overwhelmed. And that's what our process, our revolutionary workplace, the ClearX process and the ClearX framework brings, is this clarity and focus. So we took them through a pre-event assessment. We sliced and diced using our fancy data visualization software, and we're able to picture it and say, have a look here, because there's 6 areas that you need to address to have a high-performance team. So we said to them, look at culture in these 10 areas of your culture. Look at the problem, look at the imbalance, look at the issues. And so based on those questions we asked, there's actions that they can do to improve that. And then we showed them the graphs of leadership, where there's lack of integrity, lack of communication, lack of trust. And then we showed the engagement, which is where the staff don't bring their full game to work. They're there because they have to, and it's a JOB, do what I have to do. Very little meaning, very little drive, passion, or purpose. And so there were 10 questions in that engagement, and we could say, look there, people don't have all the tools, all the resources. They don't have all the authority and responsibility. The A is appreciative action with accountability. There was no accountability, nobody holding people gently accountable on an ongoing basis. It wasn't a positive, inspiring space. It was negative. In fact, the word was toxic space. When we started the workshop, I'll show you the graph. I'll put the graph up. But there were people down at trust 0, trust 1, trust 2 out of 10, where 10 is perfect and 0 is broken. And even in conversations with these people, they weren't willing to trust. The workplace was so toxic and so dangerous. They were in full-on defense mode the whole time. And so that positive, appreciative, inclusive process is where we had to start to build that foundation. And then leadership is about mindsets. We know that skill set matters. But a great skill set with a bad mindset can be hell. And that can completely trash the performance of your high-performance team. And so the right mindsets with resilience and the right relationships, which is the connection, the communication, the collaboration, which is where trust comes along. That openness, that authenticity, that vulnerability and that sharing. And we had to model that for the people. And at the end we had incredible responses, and if we have time I'll share some of those in the video with you. But if you don't have a framework and a structure that you can then use to create the foundation, because we talk about the personal foundations, but then there's also the business foundations. I'll show you the whole revolutionary workplace ClearX foundation gives us a structured, insightful process to build people, teams, leadership, and culture. And once that foundation is built, now we can talk about execution, where the rubber meets the road. Because people have these fat strategy documents, they spend mega millions with consultants and external experts. Where they fall down is in the execution. And I wanted to do an article, innovation and creativity have no value in your organization. So don't waste time getting leaders or speakers on it. Because unless you can take what you've learned and execute it efficiently, effectively, fiercely focused, all of these grand ideas have no value and have no benefit. It's like having a racing car with some great stuff in the boot, but you've got no fuel, your wheels are out of balance, the steering's misaligned. There's, all of these other 6 areas have to be aligned, balanced, fiercely focused, going in one direction, and then innovation, and then strategy happens. So many people go and do strategy work as leaders without the understanding or the misunderstanding They don't have the capacity to execute. And so they come with this wonderful dream. And now they say to the managers, get it done, do this stuff. But there's no capacity, there's no connection, there's no communication, there's no collaboration, there's no engagement, there's no right mindsets. And so leadership in an organization is a very complex process. And there's lots of information. You can get unlimited information on the web. But if you're going to build this leadership castle, it all starts with the right foundation, the inner engineering of who I am. Who am I? What are my core values? What are my core beliefs? What is my life philosophy? How does that bias my decision? How does it bias how I see the world? How does it bias my relationships? How do I become more conscious and more aware that I'm supporting people, planet, and profit? Not just greedership of profit, profit, profit. I hope that you've got some ideas from this process on what you can do. This 1 minute wisdom of what you can do to begin to unravel the dysfunction and disruption in your team, in building leaders. We have a structured process that allows us to see exactly where to begin and where to start. And that was that guy, this leader's problem from the large bank. He said, we know we've got problems. We just did not know where to start. You have the power. Don't waste your money on stuff you can read in a book. Yes, you can go read it in a book. But unless it gets applied, unless it gets embedded into the organization, people know about or know how to. Very few people do and be a leader. And that's what our revolutionary workplace framework does. Is we create a consciously constructive, grow every day platform, process, and consciousness, and what I call limitless leadership, where we've got leadership on every single level of the organization, not just at the pinnacle. Because times are changing. Teamwork and trust are vital. I'd love to work with you to create a high-performance organization, high-performance team, high-performance people. We'd love to work with you to expand potential and possibility and turn that into execution and fiercely focused action to create exponential impact and results. We do that with our revolutionary workplace, a high-performance, 40-year academically validated process, and we'd love to do it with you. Thank you for your time. My name is Tony Dovale, founder of Life Masters, author of Tough Success, and the developer of the revolutionary workplace high-performance system for people, planet, and profit. I'll see you around.